We're going to have a quick chit-chat with Udi and with Hanna. If anyone wants to stay, if you have to leave, by all means, please do. But Udi, please come back out, and Hanna Khoury as well. Well, thank you all for coming tonight and helping us celebrate in a musical way what sometimes we can't celebrate in a political way or a social way or democratic way. But my first question is to Udi. You have a real day job, playing cello with the Philadelphia Orchestra. You make a nice salary. You have a nice house. Why do you want to do all this stuff? And what does it mean to you musically and for your soul as well, besides the obvious answers?
Well, my house is under construction now, actually. So that's one reason when we did. This is it's a passion of mine, but it's something that many musicians do share. And while the experience in a major symphony orchestra, and I'm very blessed to be in the Philadelphia Orchestra, it's a really fantastic organization. The opportunity to, first of all, learn ethnic music, to learn Arabic modes, something that I could never do in my formal structure of education. The opportunity to converse in music with musicians from Arab background or Native American, African American background. This whole opportunity to explore commonalities between the cultures through music, to improvise. If I improvise in Philadelphia Orchestra, I might get fired. I mean, seriously. I mean, it's a nice job, but it would be bye-bye. But and I think also that the art of improvisation actually is a great language for dialogue, because when we hear somebody, when I hear Hanna play something and I answer, I really have to listen to him. And I think maybe that's what intercultural journeys is all about. It's about hearing the other and then responding based on what you heard. And I think that's a true dialogue.
We don't necessarily always agree. I mean, you can see, like sometimes he would take a phrase in one direction, I'll take it in a different direction. But I think just the fact that we're there sitting, listening to one another, and trying to find a place in which we can come together, I think that's what really the unique thing and the beauty of playing with Udi.
Hanna, let me just get a little bit of background from you. You're from where? And
I am Palestinian, born and raised in the north of Israel. So I lived a good portion of my life, the first 20 years, before I moved to the US to complete my studies there. I would say that, really the North is a great place in which people really have to learn that there are two ways in life in which we can, manage to live in the Middle East. Either one race will have to wipe out the other one, or they have to learn to live with one another. And, I think it's much safer, and we are so much better off with the second option. And this is really only a small example of, what really have in common as far as collaboration. I just hope that will inspire others to just, go and do something similar and share other commonalities.
So let me just further into your background. Your brother plays with the Metropolitan Opera Orchestra.
Yes.
You can play classical Western music. You can play classical Arabic music. Mm-hmm. I've heard you in another context play some jazz. How did that all happen in your northern Israeli-Palestinian village?
Well, I have to admit, living in Israel has its down times and positive times. As an Arab Israeli, well, obviously, there are a lot of things that we may, as a minority, it's a minority. But living in the north, we really had great access to music education in the north of Israel. All my teachers were pretty much, Russians and Jews, and my brother studied with a principal flutist in the Israel Philharmonic. So really just working together, trying and get the most out of one another. Just really, that's what got us this education. And, you know, Simon Shaheen, you know, you've mentioned he's another cousin of mine. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. But really, the education that we got in Israel has been really immense, and that has shaped where we are nowadays.
And Udi, your training was in Israel in classical music, cello. Did you ever learn any Arabic music or even any Israeli folk music while you were growing up, or was it strictly classical?
Well, I was exposed to Israeli folk music. I don't think I played much, actually, until I served in the military, and I served in a string quartet, and then we got to play everything, including jazz in northern Israel. But Arabic music, it's very interesting because the Arabs were always strangers. It was the enemy. It was something that, no, I did not associate with Arabs growing up. And I did not associate with Arabic music until well into the time I spent in the US. And then it's interesting because that actually brought me back to Israel and to the Middle East and see the Middle East with new eyes. And we started working. Hanna and I played and participated with some Arab Jewish communities in Israel. And all of a sudden, I saw a whole new reality, and I met people who are actually engaged in dialogue. So that was something that happened later.
So how much of this dialogue is actually happening in Israel, in the West Bank, in Gaza now? Because all we hear about, unless you are really connected and reading Arabic newspapers or Israeli newspapers, we just hear the bad things, right? We just hear how everyone's fighting, how everyone doesn't trust anybody. But you know, there are schools like hand-in-hand schools in the West Bank where there are Israeli and Palestinian children playing side by side. Both speak Arabic, both speak Hebrew, and they're learning. How much of that is actually happening on the ground in the Middle East now?
Okay, I think that it's happening a lot more than we hear about in the media. You do not hear in the media about all those efforts, and it could be in sports, in music, in business. I mean, there are numerous partnerships that do exist and non-for-profits that do exist in the Middle East. I know in Israel. Unfortunately, most of them are still small, which is one reason why we don't hear about them. But I think that, I mean, my wish is to see those organizations and the people who participate to really have a leading voice in the Middle East. Because, and I also hope that what we are doing on stage is just a little bit of showing what's possible. It's showing what's possible. And I think that, thank you. So if we multiply that, I think it's sky's the limit.
Well, I guess I just have to add something into this. I have been a part of the West Eastern Divan Orchestra, in which it was started by Edward Said, the late Edward Said, and Daniel Barenboim. I had the pleasure really to be in the very first year and follow for 11th year, I believe right now. We just finished we're going to start the 12th year in a row. Despite all the difficulties, you know, boycott, you know, you name it. I mean, really, the Divan has managed to bring in people from both sides of the conflict, you know, whether it's Syrians and Israelis, people who have fought for the same war. You know, soldiers from both sides who were soldiers, musicians who were soldiers at some point. And they were sitting, an Israeli next to an Arab. And it was, the very first year, it was a disaster. All the Arabs will hang out, you know, by themselves, the Jews by themselves. 11 years later, it's not that it's like one big family now. There is a lot of mixing and breeding involved from both ethnicities. So they have really gone a long way. And I believe, you know, when people were so afraid to just talk, but once they broke that fear and they start talking, there was a lot of fighting. But then, you know, I guess they just learned that after all, just two people who are just trying to live in peace. Yeah, and whether you can blame the other forever, but you just have to accept that he's gonna be there and he's not going anywhere. So the best way to do it is just live together despite all the difficulties. And I guess that has been really a great example. Another story that I just have to share is with Udi in Palestine. We have performed 2 days in Bethlehem before the Christmas Eve. And it was really full audience. And maybe Udi would like to speak to that a little bit.
No, except that it was Vivaldi gone wild, actually.
Exactly.
But something's gone wild before the Vivaldi. That's what you want to tell them about.
Exactly. Yes. I mean, just looking at Udi getting lost in Bethlehem for 2 hours. Yeah, it has been really an incredible experience. But after all, he realized that even the cab drivers, everybody was trying to be helpful and supportive. And I think that's something that Udi it really affected him a lot. I mean, it's one thing to perform in Israel, but it's a whole different thing being a Jew and getting lost in Bethlehem, especially during that time. So I think, people are people. And politics, is politics. I think
maybe it's time for the poets and the actors and the musicians to inform the politics instead of the other way around. We're going to ask the audience for some questions.
Thank you so much. I completely enjoyed the concert. It was just fabulous. My question...
Sorry, can everyone hear? Okay.
I was just saying how much I enjoyed the concert. It was wonderful, this dialogue together. I have a music question. You pointed out that at one point you were pulling this way and you were pulling that way, and I can't say as a listener that I may have noticed that, but it didn't bother me at all. And I wondered if the music shares, commonalities, as you say, in terms of the music itself. Like, was it difficult for both of you to learn? You're listening to the other, but you also have to engage with the other. And is there something about your training or the background that makes that possible or makes it difficult? I'm not sure if I can be more explicit than that, but...
Actually, I would like to, before I answer that, I would like to make a short musical example just to show you how much there is commonalities in between the music and both worlds.
He's going to play the whole program again, just solo violin now.
No, so we have, Udi played a song, I guess a Jewish song, which you are all familiar with. Did you hear that distance? Augmented second. I would like to show you actually something in Arabic, and that's really powerful, that has something very, very common. And for those who recognize this, if you have walked in the Middle East, I'm sure you heard it. It goes like this. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. It's the calling for prayer. So I just took one Jewish, melody, and the most, it doesn't get any more Islamic than that, right? Or Arab than that. So really, there is really a lot of commonalities in the music. There is a lot of improvisations involved. Sometimes Udi will use slightly different coloring or ornamentations than the ones that I would use, just because his musical training may have been influenced by other things than my musical upbringing. But really, it's so easy to play with Udi and to play some of those Israeli songs.